Captain Sisko failed his original Star Trek DS9 mission, and it still hasn't happened 26 years later. Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Captain Benjamin Sisko Avery Brooks was never a traditional Starfleet captain. Before becoming the commander of the Deep Space Nine space station, then Commander Sisko considered resigning his Starfleet commission. Later, some of the best episodes in DS9, like In the Pale Moonlight, revolve around Captain Sisko not acting like a proper Starfleet captain. Truly, Captain Sisko could never have been a Starfleet admiral. Captain Sisko was always more than just a Starfleet officer caring for his son and the people of Bajor just as much if not more than official Starfleet policy, and that is what made him one of Star Trek's best captains. Of course, personality is not the only reason Benjamin Lafayette Sisko was more than just a Starfleet captain. The Captain Sisko was also the emissary of the prophets. The non-linear beings that inhabit Deep Space Nine's stable wormhole and serve as Bajor's prophets chose Captain Sisko to represent them and the interests of Bajor, and the interests of Bajor are not always the same as the interests of the Federation. This meant that throughout Deep Space Nine, Captain Sisko had to choose between his Starfleet duties and his emissary duties. In the end, however, Captain Sisko chose Bajor. Captain Sisko failed his original Star Trek DS9 mission, but he had to. Starfleet Command sent Captain Sisko to Deep Space Nine with the eventual goal of bringing Bajor into the Federation. In that regard, Captain Sisko was a complete failure. At the start of Deep Space Nine, Bajor was just coming out of 50 years of brutal Cardassian occupation. Indeed, the actual space station, Deep Space Nine, was wrecked from the Cardassian withdrawal when then Commander Sisko arrived. He was supposed to represent Federation interests in the reconstruction of Bajor, leading them closer to the Federation. Instead, Captain Sisko helped lead Bajor towards liberation. When Ben Sisko became the emissary of the prophets, they charged him with the protection of Bajor. At the start of the Dominion War, they gave him a vision that showed the only way to keep Bajor safe from Dominion attacks was to keep them out of the fighting, and therefore out of the Federation. In fact, Captain Sisko directly intervened as the emissary to keep Bajor out of the Federation in Rapture. Arguably, this means Captain Sisko betrayed his Starfleet commission. Nevertheless, he stayed true to the needs of the Bajoran people by saving them from a second occupation. When Deep Space Nine ended in 1999, the only show progressing the prime Star Trek timeline was Star Trek Voyager, which ended in 2001 without comment on Bajor. For over a decade then, audiences had no information on whether or not Bajor would eventually join the Federation. Now, however, shows like Star Trek, Lower Decks, Star Trek Picard, and Star Trek Prodigy have all advanced the prime timeline, and none of them have shown Bajor as a member of the Federation. When Star Trek Deep Space Nine premiered in 1993, it promised something bold and different, a series grounded in one place, built around political intrigue, religious mythology, and complex character dynamics. At the heart of it all was Commander Benjamin Sisko, played with charismatic gravity by Avery Brooks. Sisko is a widower, a father, a Starfleet officer, and unexpectedly, a messianic figure to the Bajoran people. But while DS9 succeeded in reshaping what Star Trek could be, Sisko failed in one crucial regard. He never fulfilled the Federation's original mission of bringing Bajor into the United Federation of Planets. It's been 26 years since DS9 ended, and in universe, Bajor still hasn't joined. The story of that failure and its implications is one of the franchise's most fascinating unresolved threads. The assignment, shepherd Bajor into the Federation. From the beginning, Benjamin Sisko's assignment to Deep Space Nine wasn't just about holding the fort at a rundown Cardassian mining station. Starfleet's objective was clear: stabilize Bajor and guide it toward Federation membership. In the wake of the brutal Cardassian occupation, Bajor was politically fractured, spiritually wounded, and economically devastated. Starfleet hoped that by lending support and by placing a steady hand like Sisko's on the tiller, Bajor could become a stable, democratic member of the Federation. The idea made strategic sense. Bajor was located near a newly discovered wormhole to the Gamma Quadrant, giving the Federation a foothold in unexplored space. But more importantly, Bajor's inclusion would symbolize the success of the Federation's ideals, rebuilding, unifying, and uplifting a war-torn civilization. That never happened. Sisko's focus shifted to greater threats. To be fair, Sisko didn't fail for lack of trying. He brokered peace between rival factions, exposed collaborators, and even confronted extremist groups like the Circle. But over time, his priorities and the stakes changed drastically. First came the Dominion. The discovery of the wormhole not only brought Bjorn's spiritual validation as the Celestial Temple, but also a dire threat in the form of the Dominion, a militaristic empire from the Gamma Quadrant. With the Dominion War looming, Federation priorities pivoted. Holding the line against an existential threat became more important than shepherding Bajor into the fold. Then there was Sisko's personal transformation. He became the emissary of the Prophets, a title he at first rejected, then embraced. This dual identity as Starfleet officer and Bajorn religious icon created tension not only within Sisko, but also among Bajorn leaders. Was he acting on behalf of Starfleet or the Prophets? Was Bajor being led by secular governance or divine prophecy? These conflicts ultimately stalled Bajor's Federation bid. The missed moment. Bajor's Federation invitation. Perhaps the most poignant moment in this arc came in Season 5 as Rapture. After Sisko receives powerful visions from the Prophets, he warns that Bajor must not join the Federation, not yet. Though the Bajorn government is literally hours from signing the treaty, they heed Sisko's warning and delay. It was a powerful moment of faith, but also one of divergence. Bajor chose spiritual prophecy over political alliance. And Starfleet, surprisingly, accepted the decision. From that point on, Bajor's path to Federation membership grew murkier. By the end of DS9, even as Bajor played a crucial role in the war effort, it remained outside the Federation. Sisko himself ascended into the Celestial Temple and what you leave behind, leaving the mission unfulfilled. Why didn't Bajor join after the war? You might expect that after the Dominion War, with Bajor having proven its loyalty, stability, and value, Federation membership would be a foregone conclusion. Yet, canonically, it still hasn't happened. Even as of Star Trek, Picard, Discovery, and Lower Decks, there's been no indication that Bajor has joined. Why? Part of the answer may lie in Bajor's identity. The Federation values science, secular governance, and universal rights. Bajor, by contrast, remains deeply spiritual, with the Vedic Assembly and Kai continuing to hold sway over public policy. Their belief in the Prophets, their reverence for the emissary, and their strong cultural identity might make assimilation into a secular, homogenized Federation uncomfortable, even undesirable. There's also the question of trauma. Bajorans endured decades of violent occupation, and while they forged alliances during the war, they might prefer a more sovereign path than subsuming themselves into another vast political body. And then there's the elephant in the room, Sisko's absence. As both a Starfleet captain and the emissary, Sisko was uniquely positioned to bridge the spiritual and secular worlds. Without him, Bajor may have lacked a trusted voice to guide it forward. Symbolism in the failure. Sisko's failure to bring Bajor into the Federation isn't just a plot oversight, it's deeply symbolic. In many ways, it reflects the central tension of DS9, the clash